not able to assess the damage. It's very, very difficult. So that's what, the earthquake epicenter prediction is major challenge what we have currently. Is nothing but the damage scenario analysis. What we have currently is a very, very peculiar things, because we are not able to predict an earthquake. Unless we predict an earthquake, we are not too able to prepare for an earthquake. It's not like cyclone or a flood situation. In a cyclone, they say, tomorrow there is going to be a cyclone. Oh, you can evacuate the coastal area. Means, they know only in coastal areas these are all the locations we are trying to evacuate. But in case of an earthquake, it is not possible to evacuate like that. So this is the major challenge what we have. The countries again in Japan. So they used to have a shock wave prediction kind of things, it's not like predicting the earthquake magnitude, but what they can predict is like one side that there is an earthquake happen, the other side they predict the wave motion in a different location. So based on that, they try to stop the bullet trains. So that's what they are doing currently. So such kind of information can be bring out in India also. Like if there is an earthquake, automatically the places different part of the country, different part of the places, the major system can be automatically shut down. That should be there. And another major challenge what we have is many of us we do not know which building is safer for an earthquake. So a small building, whether a small building will affected more or a tall building will affected more. Small buildings are more affected or shaken by high frequency waves compared to tall buildings. But in case of a large structures, high-rise buildings are more affected for a low frequency waves. Like this, if you see the tall building, the frequency will be the duration will be very, very less. In case of here, it is the frequency will be more, so that the duration will be more. The height of the frequency will be less. So here it is, the frequency will be high and it will be damaged. The tall building will damage more, and so the low frequency, the tall building will affected more, and if it is high frequency, the short building like masonry structure will affected more. And it's vice versa in case of a liquefaction disasters. When there is a liquefaction happen, if you have more than 6 magnitude earthquake, the soil will become solidified. If you have a buildings like tall building, it will go down. If you have a short building like a 2 plus the G plus 2 building, will survive more compared to a tall building. So each and everything will have a scenario. You cannot design a building for same scenario for same location. Okay. And I want to say like this, we have to rethink about intensity scales. So we study so many things in textbook, but when in ground reality, it is not going to work. So we used to study if you have an intensity scale, we have a different intensity scales in India and abroad. So when you want to map a damage of an earthquake, so if you have a more than 5 intensity only, the building will crack. But this is something very, very unique. This is in 29th November 2021. Only a magnitude of 3.6, which is occurred in our area near Tirupattur district, actually. So the earthquake is somewhere here, but the damaged building, what I am showing you over here, is somewhere around 50 kilometers away. That too, it's only a 3.6 magnitude. The peak ground acceleration is very, very less in this area, but the damage of structures is more because of the poor construction. So if you use the intensity scale, whatever already the MSK intensity or MMI intensity, which is given by the various scientists, so it is not going to be same now. So because we have to rethink the construction practice are different. These are all mud mortar houses. These are all, some houses are only brick houses, which doesn't have any kind of uh, engineering measures. So it's easily damaging. So that's what we want to say. We have to think, rethink about the measures what we have taken. And the seismic zonation map of India, which shows only the different zones. This is the regional zonation. But what happened in case of places like Chennai and all, we have filled up areas. So the lakes which is having in 100 years old, So it has filled, and people they constructed houses on this end of area. So what happened in this kind of areas? You can have a multifold impact. Suppose if you feel one time earthquake in a hard rock area, your building is on hard rock area. If it is like a filled up soil, then you are going to have a, you know, a more number of, frequency, like, multiple of amplification of the soil. So that if you feel one time earthquake over there, and if you are going to feel 2 to 3 times more, so what happened, the shaking will be more, the damage will be more on your buildings. And these are all some kind of techniques are already available. So what people can do, like, undergraduate or postgraduate students, like, if you know something, like, basics of remote sensing and GIS, like, geography department people from Madras University, they work on, like, they can use this kind of simple technology. This is called rapid visual screening of building. So you can identify the buildings whether it is prone to earthquake or not. So suppose if we are in zone 3, like, we are in zone 3, like, places like Chennai, zone 3, it means, like, you can have a expected magnitude of 6.9. You can take this, fact sheet. There is a sheet available. It's a very simple sheet. You can take it, download from internet, take this form, and fill this form. It's a very simple. Questions are available. What kind of building it is, how many stories are there, what kind of soil, all these things. If you know, like, you can calculate whether your building is safe or not. Even you can calculate for your own home whether your building is safe or not. Okay, so that's what we used to do. Like, we have done for Chennai city somewhere around 5,000 buildings. So because, whenever we go to government, like, government always says, like, we have more number of buildings in this area. So whether we are the government, like, if you say, like, I'm in zone 3, Chennai. So if I am going to expect a 6.9 magnitude, it means, like, all my buildings in Chennai is prone to earthquakes. It doesn't matter, because, some of the building may be new, some of the buildings may be old. So I have to go to the building, I have to analyze the building, whether the building is size is correct or not, and I have to find it out if the building is structure is safe. So I don't need to go for a further evaluation. So what I need to know is, out of all these things, how many buildings are safe, how many buildings are non-safe. That we have to find it out, and the different probability damage we can calculate. If your building score is less than zero point 0.7, then we have to go for the further evaluation, like non-destructive testing. Or if it is greater than zero point 0.7, you don't need to worry, like, your building is safe. And this was the classification of damage. And you can find it out, like, if your building is less than zero point 0.7, means, like, you will have a grade 4 damage and grade 3 damage. If it is less than zero point 0.3, means then you'll have a grade 5 and grade 4 damage. Nothing but grade 5 is destruction. Your building will going to be a total collapse. Grade 4 is nothing but the very heavy damage. Further evaluation is needed for heavy structural damage on your buildings. And these kind of techniques are already available, non-destructive techniques. So instruments are available. You can use this instrument and find it out, the strength of the building. And seismic building codes are available in India, like, lintel level, beam level, column level. If you are going to construct a new buildings, if you use the earthquake resistant, then there is a chances of, safeguarding your buildings. And if you are already constructed a building, it's like a abnormal size. These are unsatisfactory long structures. So you can have a partition over there. If it is not possible to do partition in the inside, like, you can go for a outside partition, so that, the building can be safe. And the extra cost providing by the seismic resistance, like, if you are in a masonry structure, if you are places like Chennai, 1.5% or 2%, you have to spend more. Or if you are going to be a RCC building, it will be right somewhere around 2.6 to 3.2. And whatever we do, right, it's not like, we are not able to predict an earthquake. So we need to go for a scenario, like, if you have an earthquake scenario, like, we have done it, like, for Chennai city sometimes back. If you have a 6 magnitude earthquake, what would be the scenario? 7, what would be the scenario? 8, so what would be, so we'll have a different, mechanisms, like, different magnitude earthquake can do the different scenarios. And even we can find it out, like, emergency facilities, how it is going to damage, that also we can calculate. all this information. Even you can say like there is a report, it can be downloaded, and you can analyze the buildings over there in the location, and for different magnitude how much it is going to damage. And another one is safety, because there are different methods, so many methods are available all over the world, but where to apply, like this is nothing but the triangle of life and drop on cover methods are available. So I'm in zone 2, I'm in zone 3, I'm in zone 4, like that people they say. But where to apply this kind of technique? Suppose if you are in zone 5, like places like Himalayas, so if you are going to use the drop cover hold on action, like definitely it is not going to help, because there may be a huge big earthquake. So what you try to do is, like, when there is an earthquake happen, try to evacuate yourself. Like people like us in India, like Tamil Nadu, southern part of India, we are under zone 2 or zone 3. So we can practice this kind of triangle of life, like drop cover hold on action, because we are not going to have a major building collapse. So we can go for a drop cover hold on action. And so, like each and everything we have to find it out, like this is a triangle of life, like if you are having a structure like this, when there is a falling hazard, so if you are stay like this, the ceiling will, if the ceiling will come down. So if there is a sofa, if there sit like this, it won't hit on your thing. And we have an earthquake monitoring system which is already available. And what we can see over here is, immediately after any earthquake, they used to review and automatically plot, and they will put it in this website. Anybody can see like what magnitude earthquake which is happening. This is called the National Center for Seismology by Ministry of Earth Sciences, which is already available online. You can use it, make use of it. Okay. So for flood, again, I'm not going to detail on flood and all. Like what we need to know, like are you prone to floods? So if you are prone to flood, when you are doing any assessment, like people they are doing a lot of flood hazard assessment. They used to have some kind of HECRAS model. They used to have some kind of visual model. So many things are available. So many softwares are available. But what we need to understand, where we failed, is like what kind of hazard, flood hazard, you are going to assess, whether it's a flash flood or a river flood or a coastal flood or a seasonal flood or an urban flood. So each and everything is going to play a major role. Different kind of floods, like so cities like Chennai, it may have a coastal flood, it may have a river flood, it may have a seasonal flood. So you have to think in a different way to when you are design your flood hazard assessment structures. And flood hazard also, like mostly people they don't much go in detail on all these aspects. Whenever any flood hazard assessment they do, like they take a river, they take a rainfall, they do the assessment. It is not like that. We have to do for different kind of scenarios, we have to assess. And this kind of flood mitigation measures are already available. So flood fringe areas, flood prone areas, floodway areas, 100 floodplain, all these things are available. So when any developmental activities, when the planners do any developmental activities, they have to avoid this kind of further developmental activities in 100 years floodway, that people they are not currently doing, because there will be a maximum flood that is available in this area. So this area should be avoided, so that the encroachment can be removed from these areas. It's very very thing. Okay. And the right hand side map, you can picture, you can see, like various techniques are available nowadays. Like you can raise the floor in some of the areas, so that you can avoid this kind of flood damage. And another one is, like the 100-year flood ascent is very very important when you are doing any hazard mapping. So what generally people they do, any developmental activity, they go for 20 years or 30 years what happened in the past. But what they have to do, 100-year flood. 100-year flood extent is very important. So what is the maximum extent the flood can come in 100 years once? Because it may happen in a very far, but we do not know when it is going to repeat. So you can expect 100-year flood extent in any developmental activity, superimpose that and find it out what is the maximum area it can cover, that you can find it out. And we have a flood warning system which is already available by Central Water Commission. Again, you can just go to this website and see, like if there is any dam in your area, what is the water level, how it is going to breach, everything will be available. You can find it out. And flood preparedness, these kind of maps are already available for, in many of the areas, like, you can find it out, many of the things, like, you can find it out, many districts, they have prepared this map, they put it in the website also. So even they have included the concerned authority details, everything is available in website, like, in case of a flood situation, where is the nearest shelter, how to reach the shelter, who's the tahsildar, who's the deputy collector, all this information. For example, this we have done it for Vellore district, and we have very detailed information about the Vellore vulnerable maps. Okay, so landslides, again we have a different uh, scenarios, like, you need to understand the anatomy of landslides, because again each and every landslide its own its characteristics, typical phenomena it will create, and what kind of landslide it has occurred in the past, and we have to understand all these things. If you see, this is the one structure, like, one landslide in the year 2009. So there were around 6 to 7 people. They died over here. People, they just like that construct, like, houses on the top, and they remove the toe of the slope without doing any engineering measures, and they divert the water channel because of that. This landslide has happened. So these kind of case studies are available already. Like, you have to be very very careful when you're doing any landslide investigation studies, and do, like, very critical involvement. And there are methodologies are available to remediation options, like, these are all some engineering and non-engineering methods are available. Sheet piling is nothing but, like, you have to put a sheets over there on the landslide slope, so that it can stop the landslide. Geogrid is nothing but you have to uh, uh, put a grid of material on the slope. You can stop the landslide or stabilize the landslide. uh, Drainage is nothing but, like, you can put a drain pipes over there, so that water on the slope will be drained over there, so that the slope will be stabilized. And we'll have a retaining wall structures like gabion walls and rock walls you can have. And we can nailing a structure in some of the areas in rock fall areas. And terracing, like, if you have a cut of trenching kind of, terracing benching kind of things, you can do it in kind of some kind of areas. And biotechnical slope stabilization is nothing but you can plant the trees over there. You can go for a slope stabilization. And friction piles also you can use in some kind of areas. And short crate is nothing but that you can have a cement material over there in some of the areas, and you can go for a um, go for a slope stability. So many techniques are available, so you can be very very useful. And this is the one technique, like, what I would suggest generally, you have to integrate the engineering and non-engineering method, like, so when you do the engineering method, like, uh, breast wall or gabion walls, initially the strength will be very high, then keep on going years it will be reduced. But in case of soil bioengineering, like, planting of trees, so initially it will be less, then it keep on going years it will be high, so that when the trees are grown, then it will be stabilize the slope very very much. Actually, this is the one best example I could see from Nepal. Actually, I was there during this process. And this is the one landslide which people in Nepal, they have highly utilized the soil bioengineering, which work on the five major functions like catch, support, armor, reinforce, and anchor. And people, they stabilize this landslide for very very minimal cost. When they are approaching a Canadian company, they ask for huge amount, but after they do this practice, it will be very very bigger, like, almost 1/10 of the amount they reduced from the total cost of to stabilize this landslide. And we have a landslide monitoring techniques are available. So we use geophones. Now we used to do the IoT technique, and with the wireless sensor network, we can able to predict landslide. Now it's very much possible. And almost, like, we have a cyclone warning system. Maybe Ramanan sir will much touch upon this. Like, the best thing, like, what we have a nowcast, like what is happening, like next 3 years you can find it out. Next 3 hours, like, what may be the rainfall in your area, like, this is a couple of days before, like, Vellore, 21 3 2022 20 22 hours up to 1 o'clock. So 10 to 1, next 3 hours, light thunderstorm with maximum surface wind speed, light to moderate rain. So everything now it is possible. So the government of India, they are doing excellent work, particularly in case of cyclone warning. IMD is the nodal agency. They you can even track the cyclone. Everything online, so live track is available. You can find it out. So it's all open source. It's all available in the internet. And tsunami warning also, it's there. Like the INCAS is doing the tsunami warning in our areas. They have buoys installed, and immediately after any earthquake in the ocean, immediately it will detect it with the sensor. From the sensor it will go to the land station. Immediately through satellite it will be communicated, and there will be a 60,000 models are available. Any part of the Indian Ocean or Bay of Bengal, Arabian Sea, any part of the area, if there is a earthquake happen, immediately it will detect where there will be a tsunami, and how much where it will reach, how much area will get impact. So everything they can put it on, and this is what it looks. So through satellite, it's continuous monitoring, it's automatic detecting of earthquakes are available. This is very much possible nowadays. And these are all some new initiative by the BOA and by ISRO. You can find it out. It's a very useful and free. So you can find it out. The disaster management support services are available. National Flood Vulnerability Assessment System, Spatial Flood Warning System. Everything is available so that we can use it. And this is also another one called NDEM, the National Database for Emergency Management. We have a newer version also. It is available by ISRO. So here you can find it out, all information related to the current scenarios, the live maps and everything you can find it out. So these are all very useful. There is a user ID password which will be given to the district authorities, so that the district authorities can use. If you log in it, inside you can find it out, all the critical facilities, lifeline inventories, all maps you can find it out. And you can superimpose in case of any emergency situation. You can use this link and find it out what is happening. And these are all emergency management apps are already available. So one is TN Smart. This anyone can download, and you can install in your website, and you can go inside and you can find it out. What is happening in Tamil Nadu particularly, and you can find it out, like what kind of weather prediction today. You can find it out the radar maps. You can find it out the weather forecast, the location based forecast, observed rainfall, fisherman warning, drought, flood, cyclone, lightning, reservoir, and volunteer NGOs. You can register. There is advisories are available. You can have a now cost also is available for Chennai city. So everything is available here. You can find it out. And another one is Indra Vajra, is another app called by the IMD, and also Damri is available. So you can find it out next 15 minutes. If there's going to be a lightning hit on you, so it will be detect and you will give an alarm. So these are all free apps are available. And this another one, like I will take some more time on this, particularly how we effectively use the social media, particularly on disaster management. So earlier days, like this we have done during Nepal earthquake, in 2018 flood also, we have used this kind of satellite data. So what we do, like earlier days, we used to get data from UNOSAT is nothing but the human operating satellite system. So we used to trigger a event, like when Nepal earthquake happened, we used to trigger an event to the UNOSAT. They used to give the raw satellite data. The raw satellite data we bring and we interpret the data. We have a group of people called crisis mappers all over the world. We are all the scientists we working on. So what we do, like it's a kind of NGO kind of things, like people they work on their interest based. So we work in the Google groups, the crisis mapper group. We work together and we collect all this informations from the crisis mapper. We analyze the data, the raw data, and that from through that we used to transfer this information through social media, through like WhatsApp, Facebook, and other things, like to send it to the local NGOs who are working on the ground. So they use this data and they'll go for the rescue operation. How we did, like this is the 26th April Nepal earthquake. This is the epicenter location. So when there is an earthquake happen, we start keep on watching, uh, monitor. We used to get like this high resolution satellite image This is the picture given by the DigiGlobe. Actually, DigiGlobe is the persons like who's supplying the data to the Google Map. Like this is high resolution satellite data. You can see this one. These are the two structures. It is damaged. So you can find it out like exactly how many number of buildings which is damaged. We do rapid damage mapping, like which are all the area is totally destroyed, moderate damage, possible damage, all these things we can find it out from the sat map, like so this area we focus and we used to have a kind of detailed mapping. The violet color is total damage, red color is highly damaged. In the right hand side you can see, like 24/7, 27/4 2015, like every 1 hour satellite data we have. If you click this area, like you can find it out all this impact areas we calculated, and all these maps we have calculated, the damage from this every 1 hour, the UNOSAT give the data from the DigiGlobe. So we used to analyze the data like this and identify the most damage area, rapid damage mapping. We have identified, we have sent this information to the local people, and this high resolution satellite data also we get it, like so if this road is blocked, what is the another alternate route arrangement? If this tomb is closed, this area, some 180 people they died. So during that time, so how to allocate the alternate route from that area? So everything we can calculate it, even shelters we can find it out. So this what we find out, like during that time how to put the shelter, which are all the open spaces are available to put a shelter. And this is on 27 April 2015. Many people, like other countries, they came during that time. We want to put a help them. And you don't need to go to Nepal, like you can sit over there in here and do the remote sensing and GIS analysis, and you can help the people over there. And this is another one called this social media listening. Actually, during 2018 Kerala flood, even Chennai 2015 flood, also we have done it with uh, another company called Let and View Analytics, and they have done this exercise. And we have also done some exercise similar to like this. So we have a key influence like Dikshit Pillai, Nirmala Sitaraman, Shashi Tharoor, Tinu Sherian, Shiv Arur, and Virendra Sehwag. These are all top people. They used to put their hashtag, like in Twitter and Facebook and other things, like top mentions like CMO of Kerala, PMO of Kerala, Nirmala Sitaraman at ADGP, Indian Army, Danya Rajendran is the person from Journal and Indian Navy. So these people, they used to put the information in the Twitter. So what we do, like we create a heat map, like if you are putting like Kerala floods, I am in danger. So like that, if you put a hashtag, so we search based on this and we can prepare a heat map. So in a particular area where the more number of people tweeting, so that in that area maybe the high influence, so that you can go for assessments. It's like a kind of crowdsourcing. So based on that, we identified which are all the area got much damage, and we can go to the particular area. And also with the help of the former NDA member Dr. Vinod Menon, so identify this location. And which are all the crop patterns got damaged, so how much area got damaged during that thing. And International Water Management Institute also, we got the data, like how much area got inundated for different days. That information also we collected, and we used to use this data, and how much damage are there, and which are all the roads got blocked. Everything we calculated during that time. We helped the Kerala government during that time. And Chennai flood, also, like we have done something with Chennai and Kadalur, like we collect the inundation mappings and all these areas. Okay. And another 10 minutes, I'll just cover, like, the transferring traditional and indigenous knowledge, which is very, very important. Why I always present this wherever I go, because we have a huge amount of traditional and indigenous knowledge in India and all over the world, but we are not using this. So we have to use our traditional knowledge, which is going to be a major part. Like, if you see, like this earthquake resistant structure in Japan, so there is a temple. This temple is a 1,300 years old temple. Thousands of earthquakes crossed over this temple. Like they constructed a temple in such a way that it will move, it won't damage. So it will shake, it won't damage. It's a snake dance kind of thing. Like the temple will shake, but it won't damage because they use kind of ball system over there in the structure, wooden ball system, so it will shake, it won't damage. So the technique which is learned, this architect who came to India, who learned this technique, he go back and he implemented this kind of structure over there in Japan. But currently we don't have a such kind of things, it was there in Uttaranchal, in some places, earlier days we have a similar kind of temple structures, but currently we don't have this. And this is another one called baobab tree. So this baobab tree has a capacity of holding huge amount of water. So what happened in case of a drought situation? Before drought, this area started drying. So if the bottom, from the bottom, the tree card started drying, means like the whole area is undergoing some kind of drought. So people, they used to see this kind of trees and find it out there's going to be a drought. And this is another one is flood warning. This is called hemlock bird. It's like nothing but our chittukuruvi in Tamil, right? So we have a similar kind of birds. So what they do, they used to shift their nest before 24 hours. When there is going to be a flood in a river, the birds can shift their houses. So this is a kind of very very unique things, which is happening. The bird can identify there is going to be a flood. So these are all kind of indication. They used shift their nest over there, so it means like there's going to be a flood in that particular area. And this is another one is called a flood protection. People used to have a waju flood plantation, they have a waju protection over there. Waju is nothing but a plantation material. Wherever the erosion is possible, they used to use this erosional material. And they used to have a information, when there is a erosion, the other side there is a deposition. So wherever the erosion and deposition area, they used to have a plantation, so that it will control the floodplain. Another one is the mangrove plantation. Wherever you have a mangrove plantation, it will reduce the wave velocity of the tsunami. So it's the best practice people they used to follow. And this is another one called Sangukal Mandapam. You might have heard about this, this Sangukal Mandapam, in Tirunelveli and all. When there is a water, comes in the river. So due to the velocity and the wind energy, the sound will start from the Sangu, actually in the conch. You'll have a sound. So when increasing of water, it will give a sound. When water will be reside, then the sound will be reduced. Based on that, people, they understand that there is a flood in this area, so that you evacuate. So those areas, our forefathers, how they clever, they constructed this kind of structures over there in the riverbed. And this is another structure, Gigi Fort. This is my native place actually. If you go and see, in this area, in 365 days, you can have a water in this pond. So such a way that this area is prone to drought. So such a way that our forefathers, they identify all these river systems. And they collect water from different part of the area. And they collect the water from the different part of the area. And so that you'll have a water all 365 days. And they have a small structure over here. They used to save the food material over there. So in case of a drought, what you need is food and water. These two are, they used to have during the drought situation. Similar kind of structure they have in the top of the building also, the top of the fort also. You can find it out. If you go to the top of the fort, they have a small granary over there, so that they store food. And also there is a small pond over there in the top of the hill, so they don't need to come down for food during a flood situation in the bottom. If there is a flood, you can. So flood and drought is very common in this kind of area. People, they used to have how forefathers are, they are very very knowledge of it. And this is the another, this is the fort, which I am showing, last pictures, Raja Fort and Rani Fort. And they have a surveillance scheme, right? These two are king and queen were there. In another fort, another hill area, there is a surveillance system which is available. Even if you go now also, you can find it out. There is a small structure which is available. There is a hole. From this hole, you can find it out what king is doing, what queen is doing. Because those days, the enemies can attack from any part. So these people, they are able to survive surveillance of this area. So how our forefathers, the kings, are very clever, and those days itself they have idea of this. And another one is like temple architecture, and they use this as a incident command system. So this kind of bigger temples, they used to have a uh, uh, big temples, like they have a kind of structures. So one side, if you go and talk, like it will be audible to everywhere. So this area they used as a incident command system. Incident command system in the sense, like there is a disaster or war happens, the talabadi will be there, and they used to give a commanding over there. So those areas they used to have also during any war time, or any disaster time, people used to use as a shelter also, like this areas. And there's a temple, you can find it out. This is called maybe you might have heard about the Rameshwaram temple. So this is in a coastal area. This temple cost over somewhere around 1,000 cyclones so far. But however, there is no single cyclones hit over this temple, because the temple is constructed as aerodynamic. So it's like an ambassador car. You might have heard about ambassador car. It's a windproof and safety car. So when wind comes, it hit over there and it will tear the wind, but it won't damage the car. Similarly, this kind of structures in a coastal area, the wind will come, it will hit, but it won't damage the structure. And you have all heard about this Kalane Dam in Trichy. Like this is on a quick sand prone area, so which is constructed on a quick sand prone area. So thousand years old dam. Still the dam is strong, and nobody is right. No small crack over there in the dam. So such a way that the dam is very very strong. Such a way our forefathers. So what I want to convey is, like we have our traditional and indigenous knowledge, but we have a newer technologies nowadays, like what they have done in the past, which we should apply in our newer technology, and we can go for a new innovation in our research, and do things so that we can stop our we can mitigate or try to prevent our disasters. And this is our state emergency operation number, this is our district emergency operation number. So we have 1.34 billion brains and 2.6 billion hands. So our destination is disaster risk free India. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your detailed explanation.
Thank
So,
you. Any questions?
Thank you, Professor Ramanji.
Sir, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Very nice presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
there is no question.
Thank you. Any questions? Any questions in the YouTube link? Comment box. Check the comment box. Nobody.
Sir,
See one more question. You see?
There is no question, sir. If it is so, let me know, sir. We'll give you, sir.
வணக்கம் சார். எப்படி சார் வணக்கம்.
சார் வணக்கம் 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 வணக்கம். எப்படி இருக்கீங்க?
ஃபைன் சார் ஃபைன் சார். இன்னும் வேலூர் தான் வரல ஒரு வாட்டி கூட.
சார் உங்களுக்கு எல்லாம் ஏற்பாடு பண்ணிட்டேன். நான் லாஸ்ட் டைம் நீங்க டிஸ்கஸ் பண்ணது நான் கால் பண்றேன் உங்களுக்கு. வாங்க.
சோ பாப்போம் ஒரு ஆப்பர்சூனிட்டி எப்போ வேலூர் வர போறேன்னு தெரியல பாப்போம்.
சார் அரேஞ்ச் பண்ணிடுறேன் நான். நீங்க மேபி ஷார்ட்லி வி கேன் பிளான் பண்றேன். நாங்க நீங்க சொன்னதெல்லாம் வச்சிருக்கேன் நாம. ஓ சார் இங்கே வந்துட்டாரா ஆபீஸ்க்கு? சூப்பர் சூப்பர்.
சார் சொன்னாரு கணபதிக்கு மேலெல்லாம் ஒண்ணுமே இல்லையேன்னாரு. உள்ள நிறைய இருக்கு சார். கொஞ்சம் கூட பால்ரான மாதிரி தோணிது அதனாலதான்.
ஆமா ஆமா சார் வயசாயிடுச்சு.
ஓகே
Thank you, sir, for your detailed explanation. In disasters happened worldwide, including India, and Prime Minister's 10-point agenda and all. And this is the time to call Dr. S.R. Ramanan, sir, from Meteorological Department in 1980. He has worked as a forecaster in Northern Hemisphere Analysis Center in New Delhi and at the Aviation Meteorological Office of Chennai Airport. He represented the country regarding synergized standard operating procedures for coastal hazards in Bangkok during May 2013. He is a recipient of Vocational Excellence Award by Rotary International during March 2016. He received honorary doctorate from Vinayaga Mission University during July 2017 in recognition of his service. Over to you, sir. Okay, dear participants, this is for 5 minutes. Kindly go for break and expecting you all to assemble at the same uh, to be here.
Hello, Ganpati sir. Please unmute yourself first.
Ma'am,
Yes, okay now.
அப்புறம் ஷேர் ஸ்க்ரீன் போங்க. ஷேர்.
பியூட்டிஃபுல் பெயிண்டிங்லாம் போட்டிருக்கீங்க.
எல்லாம் இவங்களோட கைவண்ணம் தான் சார். ஒரு பவர் பாயிண்ட் அதை ஓப்பன் பண்ணிட்டுவேன். ஓப்பன் பண்ண அப்போ இதை எது பண்ணணும், எதுவுமே பண்ணணும். இதான் இதானா நீங்க பண்ணுங்க. ஃபுல் ஸ்க்ரீன். ஓகே. எஃபெக்ட். ஓகே. டன் ஒண்டர்ஃபுல். தண்ணி முதல் வந்துருமா? ஓகே, பேச ஆரம்பிக்க வேண்டியதானே? வாய்ஸ் கிளியரா இருக்கா? ஓகே. Good morning to you all. So I thank the Department of Geography, Bhaskar sir and all, for giving me an opportunity to interact with you. The topic of the day, as far as I'm concerned, is the hydrometeorological disasters. And today being the WMO day, so fits in well. The topic it has been chosen will be ideal for researchers. So you can see a city flooded, and this is an urban flooding. So hydrometeorological disasters, we are going to talk mainly about flooding due to water. Of course, other disasters are also there due to wind and all. But since it's hydrometeorological disasters, it will be the heavy rainfall scenario that I am going to talk today. So as far as the presentation outline is concerned, flooding, what exactly is the flooding? Who is going to look after that? Intertropical convergence zone, cyclones, thunderstorms, and other synoptic situations leading to heavy rainfall scenarios. These are all to be discussed. Now, as far as the flood management is concerned, 40 million hectares of the country is prone to floods, and it is the Central Water Commission which advises all the state governments. They are the agency which liaises with the state governments. As far as the Indian Meteorological Department, in which I served for some 36 years, they issue only a heavy rainfall warning. The flood met officers of the India Meteorological Department liaises with the Central Water Commission and gives them the quantitative precipitation estimates. And in turn, they advise the individual state governments that in this basin, river basins and all, flooding is bound to occur. And you have the National Disaster Management Agency, NDMA. They have issued summary guidelines how to face the floods. So these are the two aspects. So I am going to discuss mainly the meteorological systems which bring copious rain, which ultimately leads to flooding. Next point is urban flooding. This is certainly different from the rural flooding. As far as the urban flooding is concerned, it is the civic authority of the concerned urban area who should address the problem. Why it is occurring? It is due to the infrastructure in the city, how it is. For example, if you take a road, the central portion of the road, where the sewerage water will be going, the left and right side of the roads will have storm drains. If those storm drains are filled, then there will be difficulty in the evacuation of the water. And another important thing is, the main road in the town will be at a slightly higher elevation in comparing to the roads in the other sides, so that there is a gradient flow of the water, which ultimately should go to a water body, maybe a sea or a river or a lake. This is how the system works. And if houses are constructed in the low-lying area itself, they are bound to experience periodically this flooding in case of heavy rainfall scenario. So it is the civic authorities who should address the problem. And as far as the rainfall is concerned, we do need a good protection system. That is also very, very important. Next. What causes heavy rainfall? This is the question. Here, you can see two lines. One in red and another is in blue color. This is what is known as intertropical convergence zone. Earth is rotating on its own, and also there is a revolution of the earth around the sun. And earth is also tilted 23.5 degrees. As a result, what happens? That is why you are having summer and winter hemispheres. It leads to what is called the apparent movement of sun. Sun is not moving, but we do get a feeling that sun itself is moving due to the inclination of the earth. So in summer, it comes to Tropic of Cancer, and in winter, it is in Tropic of Capricorn. So when it is in Tropic of Cancer, what will be the ITCZ? It is marked in the red. And where will be the ITCZ during January when it is in the Tropic of Capricorn is marked in the blue. What is this ITCZ? This is the question. With the apparent movement of sun, what happens? You have trade winds in the tropics, which is basically easterlies. With the apparent movement of sun to the northern hemisphere, easterlies of the southern hemisphere crosses the equator and becomes westerly due to the rotation of Earth, due to what is called the Coriolis force. Similarly, when it is moving towards southern hemisphere, the easterlies of the northern hemisphere crosses the equator and becomes westerlies. When the easterlies of one hemisphere meets the westerlies which has come from the other hemisphere, it creates what is called the intertropical convergence zone. And this is precisely the area in which we have a lot of rainfall activity or weather activity. So we are going to see in subsequent pictures what the result of this intertropical convergence zone. So you take the picture in July, you can see the wind convergence is here. The easterlies of the southern hemisphere, after crossing the northern hemisphere, becomes westerlies. It meets the easterlies of the northern hemisphere, and you are having what is called the wind convergence zone, and is nothing but your intertropical convergence zone, ITCZ. And precisely this is the area in which you are bound to have the weather activity. When it is in January, it is naturally the winter season in the southern hemisphere. So the easterlies of the northern hemisphere, after crossing the equator, they meet the westerlies of the southern hemisphere, and you are having a convergence zone here. So you are able to see it. So you can see here, the red dotted line is your ITCZ, or the shear line it is called, or the trough line. So what happens here? The air from the one hemisphere meets the air from the other hemisphere, and it creates weather systems. It can create a low pressure area, which if it travels in the sea for a longer period can ultimately become a cyclonic storm too. So this is what is happening. So this is a flow pattern at 1.5 kilometers above the sea level, that is at 850 hectopascals. This picture was taken somewhere in 2nd July 2020. This is at a height of 1.5 kilometers. So you can see the upper air flow. These are all called upper air circulation. So the easterlies of the southern hemisphere, after crossing the equator, becomes westerlies. So they meet the easterlies of the northern hemisphere, and they form circulation patterns. So the ITCZ is running even up to Japan or China, the extreme positions. To the level, same extremity you cannot find in the southern hemisphere because of the contrast land-sea continent. The northern hemisphere is basically a land continent, whereas southern hemisphere is basically a sea continent. So you will not see this much extreme movement of the ITCZ to the higher latitudes, whereas you can see the northern hemisphere. This is over. You can see over northeastern states through Burma, Myanmar. It goes into China. Ultimately, even goes up to near Japan. So these are precisely the shear zone, or the zone where these two easterlies and westerlies meet. And precisely this is the area where you will get bountiful rainfall. This type of scenario has only led to lot of floods in China. You would have heard of Three Gorges Dam, floods, all these things in the newspapers you would have read. This precisely this type of scenario which creates these heavy rainfall scenarios. So this is a picture of Pacific Ocean, as well as this side is Atlantic, naturally. So yes, you can see the clouding here. So why is this clouding? It's only nothing but your ITC, is that intertropical convergence zone. So in this picture, where you are during the summer of the northern hemisphere, you have the ITCZ. Only in the ITCZ, you are able to see a lot of cyclone activity. So in the Pacific Ocean, the northern Pacific Ocean, you can see two cyclonic storms, Celia and Harvey, and then one Alex in the Atlantic Ocean. So you can see a lot of cloud activity. So this cloud activity only you are able to see in our southwest monsoon period for the northern parts of the country, which leads to heavy rainfall situation. As far as the South India is concerned, during the winter monsoon, northeast monsoon, you have a lot of activity over Tamil Nadu because ITCZ will be running across the state. That is the reason. Now, with the previous picture, we have seen what exactly is a tropical cyclone. I am going to briefly talk about cyclone because this is not a lecture on tropical cyclone, which I can do on some other occasion. So much importance will be given to the rainfall only in these discussions. So in order to give you an idea of what exactly is a cyclone, I have given this picture. Only in an intense cyclone you will have an eye, the area where you don't have any clouds at all. Abutting the eye, you have what is called the eye wall, precisely the area where you will have the maximum wind speeds and also the maximum rainfall will be occurring in that area. And then the outer area you have what is called the spiral cloud bands, and convective cells will be there. But the maximum rainfall activity will be only in the eye wall zone, where clouds on the height of even 16-17 kilometers you can find in the tropics, this tropical cyclone. They generally form when the sea surface temperature is more than 26.5 degrees Celsius and there will be low wind shear. What exactly is the wind shear? We have a wind blowing from east and west at different levels. The vertical structure you will not get, so it will be affected. So the wind shear should be less. That is much more important. And they generally form a little bit away from the equator. Why? Because it uses what is called the Coriolis force. As far as picture image வீடியோ பாத்தீங்களா வரல ஒரு பவர் பாயிண்ட் மட்டும் தான் வந்ததா ஓகே வீடியோ பார்த்தாலும் ஃபைன் நோ ப்ராப்ளம் ஓகே செக் இட் my image is not coming. It says my image and this PowerPoint should be shared. Both should appear simultaneously.
You is here, right? This camera is
Camera is here. This is the camera.
Yes, no, never on.